The stars above had always been a symbol of hope, of exploration, and of humanity's thirst for knowledge. For centuries, humans looked up at the night sky, dreaming of what lay beyond Earth's atmosphere. But no one could have anticipated what would happen when the galaxies finally turned their gaze toward us. The Empire, a ruthless and overwhelming force that spanned across the cosmos, had set its sights on Earth, believing that they could easily assimilate our world into their ever-expanding control. But they underestimated something critical: us. Earth, the one planet that would defy their expectations and draw a line in the sand. It started with the first encounter, an enormous fleet of ships entering our solar system, their sleek, metallic forms cutting through the stars like predators hunting their prey. The Galactic Empire's emissaries made their intentions clear. They wanted Earth's resources, its people, its land, and they expected us to fall in line. At first, humans didn't know how to respond. We had always been a relatively peaceful species, solving our problems with diplomacy and intellect, not military might. But the Empire, they didn't negotiate, they didn't care for diplomacy, and they certainly didn't expect a challenge from a small, relatively isolated planet like Earth. But we weren't prepared to bow down. The first hint of resistance came from an unlikely source: a small, hidden group of civilians, scientists, and ex-military personnel who had been monitoring the sky for years. They knew that something was coming, and when it did, they were ready. What started as whispers in dark corners became a unified cry for survival. The people of Earth, united by a fierce pride in their independence, banded together to face an enemy that was unlike anything they had ever encountered. A covert resistance movement emerged, a collective of brilliant minds, engineers, and tacticians who had already begun to develop ways to defend against the Empire's technological superiority. They may have been technologically advanced, but Earth had something the Empire didn't: the power of ingenuity, the fire of survival, and the heart of a people who would rather fight to the last breath than be enslaved. The first clash was a brutal one, but Earth had not just resisted, they had won. The Empire's fleet retreated, but not without promising vengeance. Now, with Earth having defied the Empire, a new war begins. But it's not just about military force. It's about something deeper, something more powerful. The Empire, once all-powerful and indomitable, now faces a challenge they hadn't prepared for: an enemy that fights not for resources, but for survival, for freedom, and for the right to remain untouched by foreign rule. Earth has drawn a line in the sand, and the Empire knows it can't ignore that challenge. But will the Empire learn from their defeat, or will they come back with an even greater vengeance? As tensions mount and Earth prepares for the next phase of resistance, the clock is ticking. The Empire isn't the only threat. There are whispers of others, ancient forces that have watched the galaxy for eons, and they, too, are paying attention to Earth's defiance. The battle for survival has only just begun, and with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, the question remains: can Earth truly hold its ground against an empire that spans the stars? The answer may not come until the very last breath. The next move is ours, but the Empire isn't done yet. What happens next will determine the future of Earth and the universe. Stay tuned. The Empire's retreat from Earth had been swift, but it left behind more than just empty space where their fleet had once been. It left a scar in the hearts of every human who had witnessed it. We had fought back, and now we knew what we were up against. But the truth was, we still had no idea what we were truly facing. The Empire was a vast, seemingly unstoppable machine, with warships the size of small moons and technology far beyond anything we could comprehend. We had beaten them once, but would we be able to do it again? In the aftermath of the battle, the world was both united and fractured. The resistance, though successful, had only scratched the surface of the Empire's plans. What we knew about the Empire's true nature was still shrouded in mystery. Their leaders, known only by a few whispered names, were believed to be ancient beings who had ruled for millennia. They had spread their dominance to countless planets, erasing entire civilizations in their wake. Yet, despite the destruction they left behind, there was something about their system that seemed fragile. There were rumors, passing conversations among the surviving leaders of Earth, that the Empire's grip was weakening, that it was no longer the monolithic power it once was. Perhaps, in their arrogance, they had underestimated the resilience of the human spirit. Among the survivors was a man who had become an unwilling symbol of that spirit. He wasn't a general or a politician, but a former engineer who had worked for years designing the very technology that the resistance now used to fight back. He had never asked for any of this. He wasn't a soldier by nature. Yet, when the call came, he didn't hesitate. His name wasn't important, but his skills were. He was the one who had helped reverse engineer some of the Empire's own weapons, turning their technology against them. And it was his plan that had given Earth its first victory. Now he was leading a team of civilians, scientists, and ex-soldiers as they prepared for the inevitable return of the Empire. The people of Earth, once divided by politics and ideology, were now bound together by a common enemy. But it wasn't just the leaders and the soldiers who were fighting. It was everyone. The resistance had grown into a global movement. Civilians had become soldiers, farmers had become engineers, teachers had become strategists. Everyone had a role to play, and it was this unity that made Earth's stand so powerful. The Empire had underestimated our will, and now they would feel the full weight of that mistake. Yet, even as the resistance grew stronger, there was something unsettling in the air. The Empire wasn't the only threat. There were others watching, lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. Long before the Empire had come to Earth, there had been whispers of a race older than the stars themselves, an ancient race that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had watched as the Empire spread its influence, and they had never intervened. Until now, a mysterious figure had appeared in the aftermath of the battle, someone who claimed to have knowledge of these ancient beings. He wasn't from Earth, but he didn't speak of the Empire either. His origins were as much a mystery as his intentions. His only message was clear: you have awakened something that will not be easy to control. His words sent a chill down the spine of everyone who heard them. Who were these beings? What did they want with Earth? And most importantly, what had we done to provoke them? As Earth scrambled to prepare for the Empire's return, the mystery of this ancient race loomed larger than ever. Could they be an ally in our fight, or were they yet another enemy? No one knew, and every day brought more questions than answers. The resistance was ready for war, but the unknowns kept growing. And it wasn't just the resistance that was affected. People across the globe, even in the most remote corners of the Earth, were beginning to see strange things in the sky, unnatural lights, unexplained phenomena. Some even claimed to hear voices in the wind, calling them to an unknown purpose. Was this the Empire's doing? Or was something even darker waking from the depths of the galaxy? The uneasy truth was that humanity might not have the luxury of fighting just one battle. The Empire, with its fleets and its firepower, was dangerous enough, but the possibility of a threat far older, more mysterious, and more powerful than anything Earth had ever faced was a game-changer. And as the days passed, the tension only grew. What had started as a simple fight for survival was quickly becoming something much larger, a struggle for humanity's place in the cosmos itself. Would Earth rise to meet this new challenge, or would we fall prey to the darkness that was slowly creeping toward us from the stars? The clock was ticking. The Empire was coming. But so was something much worse, and no one knew who or what would strike first. The days leading up to the Empire's next move were filled with a suffocating sense of dread. Earth had prepared as much as it could, but no one was truly ready for what was coming. The resistance had fortified cities, constructed weapons, and developed strategies, but the feeling that the ground beneath them was shifting couldn't be ignored. The mysterious figure who had warned of ancient beings continued to haunt the minds of the leaders. What did he know that we didn't? And who, or what, were these beings that he spoke of? Strange things were happening across the planet. Reports came in from all corners of Earth. Unexplained flashes of light in the skies, strange energy surges from deep within the oceans, and even whispers of people disappearing without a trace. Every new development felt like a warning, a sign that something much bigger than the Empire was watching. Some believed the Empire had unleashed these forces, desperate to regain their advantage, while others feared that Earth had stumbled upon a far darker power. As the resistance gathered its forces in preparation for the inevitable invasion, tensions escalated. The atmosphere on Earth grew heavy, like a storm on the horizon that no one could avoid. Across the world, families said their goodbyes, and soldiers readied themselves for battle. The leaders of the resistance, though resolute, were plagued with doubt. What if the Empire had already infiltrated Earth in ways they couldn't detect? What if the strange disturbances were their doing? Or worse, what if the ancient race, whoever they were, had already begun their own invasion? The mysterious figure, whose warnings had once seemed like idle threats, had disappeared as quickly as he arrived. No one knew where he had gone or why he hadn't revealed more about the ancient race he spoke of. His cryptic words echoed in the minds of the resistance leaders. You have awakened something that will not be easy to control. The longer they waited, the more those words seemed to carry weight. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash that no one fully understood. Then, on the eve of the Empire's return, something happened that none of them could have predicted. The Empire's fleet, which had been on the move toward Earth for weeks, suddenly stopped. No transmissions, no warning. The resistance didn't know whether to celebrate or to brace for something far worse. Had the Empire been defeated before they could even reach Earth? Or had something else, something much darker, intervened? Reports came in from orbiting satellites. A massive, incomprehensible ship had appeared in Earth's orbit, far larger than any of the Empire's vessels. Its surface was smooth and almost organic, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It didn't communicate. It didn't respond to any of Earth's attempts at contact. It simply hovered there, silent and waiting. And just as quickly as it had appeared, strange objects began to fall from it, shapes that seemed to defy the laws of physics, shimmering and twisting in ways that no human technology could replicate. Panic swept through Earth as the resistance scrambled to understand what was happening. Was this the Empire's last attempt to invade Earth, or had the mysterious beings arrived? The lights in the sky grew brighter, more erratic. People watched in awe and fear as something impossible began to take shape above them. A decision had to be made, and it had to be made fast. The resistance leaders knew that the Empire's fleet was still somewhere out there, waiting to strike. But now they had a new enemy to deal with. They were running out of time, and the mystery of the ancient beings only deepened the uncertainty. Were they here to conquer, or had they come to judge humanity? The ship in orbit didn't give answers. It only offered more questions. The people of Earth, once united by the common enemy of the Empire, now found themselves divided. Some believed the ancient race could be an ally, while others feared they were the final threat, a force so powerful that humanity's resistance would be meaningless. The tension was unbearable, and everyone knew that the coming days would change the course of history forever. As the unknown ship hovered above, Earth's skies began to darken. The air was thick with anticipation, and every human on the planet could feel it. The storm was coming, and no one knew who would survive it. The resistance was ready, but would it be enough to face both the Empire and these ancient beings? Or had Earth's defiance awakened a force that no one could ever hope to control? The clock was ticking. The final battle was drawing near, and the fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. As the darkened skies above Earth became more oppressive, the air itself seemed to hum with tension. People across the planet were glued to their screens, watching in fear and fascination as the strange, colossal ship continued to loom in orbit. Whatever it was, whether an enemy or an unknown force, was something no one had prepared for, and just as the world braced for the worst, the ship did something no one could have predicted. Without warning, the ship's surface seemed to ripple like water disturbed by a stone, and from it, a massive beam of light shot down toward the planet. It wasn't a weapon, at least not in the traditional sense. The light wasn't destructive. It wasn't burning or tearing apart the atmosphere. Instead, it seemed to envelop Earth in an overwhelming force, as if the entire planet was being pulled into its orbit, its presence felt in every corner of the world. People screamed, their senses overloaded, as if the very fabric of reality was shifting beneath their feet. Then everything stopped. The beam cut off as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a stillness that was more unsettling than any noise. Earth's skies were clear once more, but the atmosphere had changed. The ground was quiet. But deep within humanity's collective consciousness, something had shifted. Something had been awakened. The resistance leaders scrambled to make sense of what had just happened. What was that beam? What had it done? More troubling still, what had it left behind? Some reports suggested that strange, energy-based disturbances were emanating from the ground itself, as if the very planet had been altered by the light. Devices and systems that had been operational for decades began malfunctioning. Power grids flickered, satellite systems became erratic, and even people's personal technologies seemed to suffer from strange glitches, as if Earth's connection to the rest of the galaxy had been momentarily severed. And then the second twist came, something even more mind-boggling. Among the chaos of the power outages and malfunctions, certain people began experiencing visions. At first, it was thought to be a mass hysteria, but the accounts were too consistent. Across the world, individuals began to describe the same thing. They saw beings, figures in shimmering robes, speaking to them in an ancient language they couldn't understand. But these figures didn't just speak. They communicated directly into their minds, unlocking memories they'd never known they had. These weren't random people. They were the ones who had been touched by the light. They had been chosen. The visions didn't stop there. People began to see fragments of the galaxy, flashes of the Empire's ships, ancient ruins floating in space. They saw the same mysterious ship that hovered above Earth. Only this time, they saw its true purpose. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a key, a gateway to something much larger, something beyond their understanding. The ancient beings had been waiting for this moment. They had been watching Earth for eons, waiting for the human race to reach a certain threshold. As these individuals began to share their experiences, the world's perception of the threat began to shift. The ancient race that had once been feared as another enemy was now being viewed as something else, perhaps not a conqueror, but a harbinger. These beings, it seemed, had long known of the Empire's impending fall. They had waited for the moment when humanity would awaken, when the light would rise from within, ready to become something more than just a species struggling to survive. The beam that had struck Earth wasn't a sign of attack. It was a signal, a calling. Earth wasn't just under threat from the Empire anymore. Humanity had become part of something far greater, a galactic struggle of cosmic proportions. But there was no time to comprehend these revelations. The Empire had not remained silent during all of this. Their fleet, which had seemed to halt in its approach, had silently reactivated, as if the mysterious event above Earth had triggered something within them. And now they were advancing faster, more determined than ever. The resistance, now divided by the truth of the visions and the emerging presence of these ancient beings, had no clear direction. With Earth teetering between two vast forces, the remnants of the Empire and the unknown ancient race, the stakes had never been higher. The people of Earth were faced with an impossible choice: align with the mysterious beings, whose true intentions were still unclear, or continue to fight against the Empire, the very force that had tried to enslave them. But was Earth even ready to face what was coming? The question loomed unanswered. Was humanity about to become a pawn in a much larger game? Or was Earth destined to rise up, not just as a planet, but as a force in its own right, able to tip the balance between cosmic powers? The galaxy was waiting, and so was the Empire, and the ancient race had not yet revealed all of their cards. The true battle was about to begin, and no one knew who would emerge victorious. The moment of reckoning had arrived. The sky above Earth seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, as if the planet itself was caught in a cosmic tug-of-war between two colossal forces. The Empire's fleet had re-emerged from the darkness, now a fully operational armada, their ships looming ominously above Earth. But they weren't the only presence in the sky. The ancient ship, that mysterious colossal vessel that had once hovered silently above Earth, had now activated fully. It was no longer just a sentinel in the heavens. It was a force in itself, casting a long, shadowy presence over the world below. The resistance, still reeling from the shocking revelations about the ancient race, was left with a single, desperate choice: make an alliance with these enigmatic beings, or face the full might of the Empire. The time for debate had ended. The Empire was closing in, and Earth's leaders had no choice but to act. As the two forces, one ancient and powerful, the other ruthless and hungry for control. Prepared for battle, the air was thick with tension. Earth's defense systems, bolstered by reverse-engineered Empire technology, fired up. Cities began to brace for impact, and the resistance mobilized every available soldier, scientist, and strategist. The fate of Earth was hanging in the balance, but as the forces of the Empire and the ancient beings positioned themselves in the sky, something unexpected happened. The beam of light from the ancient ship reactivated, but this time it wasn't directed at the Earth. It shot upward, arcing into the stars, cutting through the vastness of space like a piercing sword. The energy was powerful, far beyond anything Earth had witnessed before, and it was clear that the Empire wasn't the only force being targeted. The beam struck a distant, uncharted region of space, and in that instant, the entire battlefield shifted. The Empire, realizing what was happening, attempted to maneuver their ships into position, but it was too late. A ripple, like the shockwave of an explosion, pulsed across the galaxy, and a vast, shadowy figure materialized, something so large, so incomprehensibly massive, that it made the Empire's fleet seem like mere specks of dust. The ancient beings weren't just a force for Earth's protection. They were the vanguard of something far older, something that had been waiting in the wings, watching as the Empire expanded across the galaxy. In an instant, Earth's skies were lit up with an overwhelming flash of energy, and a battle of epic proportions unfolded. The Empire's ships tried to retaliate, but they were no match for the might of the ancient race. The energy weapons they unleashed were absorbed and redirected with terrifying precision, the ancient ship's power bending the very laws of physics. The Empire's fleet was decimated, one ship after another, until only a handful remained, retreating into the deep reaches of space. But as the battle raged above, a final twist struck the heart of Earth itself. The mysterious figure who had warned of the ancient beings, the one who had vanished after his cryptic message, appeared again. This time, however, he was not alone. He stood among the ruins of the Resistance's command center, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "You've awakened something you weren't meant to," he said, his voice calm yet filled with a knowing weight. And with that, the final truth was revealed. The ancient beings, the so-called protectors of the galaxy, were not protectors at all. They were the original conquerors, their purpose being to watch over the Empire's expansion, ensuring it grew unchecked. They had manipulated Earth's growth, their intervention not to save humanity, but to ensure it fell in line with their plans for galactic dominance. Earth had unknowingly become a pawn in a much larger game, caught between two forces that had both been using it for their own purposes. The struggle wasn't just about Earth anymore. It was about who would control the galaxy, and humanity had unknowingly been at the center of it all. As the ancient being's final, cataclysmic attack was unleashed, Earth stood at the edge of a new, unknown chapter, one that humanity would have to navigate without knowing whether they were truly free or if they had simply swapped one master for another. The revelation that the ancient beings were not saviors, but the original architects of the Empire's rise, rocked Earth to its core. The Resistance, once so united against a common enemy, now found themselves torn between the weight of betrayal and the remnants of their defiance. It was clear now, their fight had never been about freedom, but about survival in the face of a galaxy-altering power play. As the ancient ship hovered above, seemingly all-powerful, the remaining survivors of the Resistance gathered. The world had watched in awe as their technology had been used to defeat the Empire's might. But now, they stood helpless before a new enemy, one with a power far beyond anything they had ever encountered. The ship's beams of energy cut through the skies, reshaping the landscape, and it seemed that humanity's fate had been sealed. But in the depths of Earth's most desperate moments, there was still a spark of hope. It was a small group, those who had seen the visions, the ones who had been chosen by the light. They had connected with something larger than themselves, something ancient. They didn't know exactly what it was, but they felt it, the presence of a power greater than the Empire, greater than the ancient race that sought to control it. And they believed that somehow there was a way to reclaim Earth's destiny. They gathered together, a diverse group of soldiers, engineers, and civilians, but all united by the same purpose. They weren't going to simply accept being pawns in this galactic game. They had fought for their freedom once, and they would fight again, even if the battle was no longer just about the Empire. As the ancient ship sent out another pulse of energy, the group's leader, an engineer who had once helped reverse engineer the Empire's weapons, stepped forward. He had an idea. It was risky. It was desperate, but it was humanity's last chance. With the help of the remaining scientists and resistance fighters, they initiated the one weapon the ancient beings had never anticipated. A signal, one that would resonate with the very fabric of the galaxy. A countermeasure to the ancient race's control over the cosmic forces. The signal was not designed to destroy, but to disrupt, to sever the ancient race's grip over the galaxy. It was a gamble, a hope that by interrupting their hold on the stars, humanity could rewrite its place in the universe. As the signal activated, the ancient ship shuddered, and the pulse of energy faltered. It was as if the very laws of physics themselves were being bent, twisted, and tested in ways no one could fully understand. The once unshakable power of the ancient beings began to weaken, their control slipping from their grasp. But just as the tide seemed to turn in Earth's favor, a sudden silence fell. The mysterious figure, the one who had warned of humanity's awakening, appeared once again. This time he was not an enemy but a messenger, someone who had been part of the ancient race long before their original masters had returned to claim their empire. He revealed the final truth. Earth had been the test, the catalyst for something larger, a cosmic shift, and humanity, despite its seemingly small role in the grand scheme of the galaxy, had passed the test. The beings who had once controlled the empire were not invincible. They had overestimated their ability to dominate, and the human spirit, relentless and unpredictable, had proved that even the most ancient powers could be challenged. With that final revelation, the battle above Earth came to an end. The ancient ship, now without purpose, began to fade, its hold over the galaxy loosening. The Empire's remnants, weakened by their own failure to control the situation, retreated into the vastness of space, defeated not by weapons, but by the will of a species they had once considered too insignificant to even notice. In the aftermath, Earth was left to pick up the pieces. The resistance was no more, but the world was forever changed. The human race had proven that even in the face of impossible odds, it could stand its ground. The galaxy, once an unfathomable expanse of unknown threats, now seemed a little smaller, a little more within reach. The visions of the chosen ones had opened a new chapter for humanity, one where Earth was no longer a passive observer but an active participant in the cosmos. The story of Earth's defiance became a legend, passed down from generation to generation. But more than that, it was a reminder that even when faced with forces that seem insurmountable, the strength of humanity, its ability to adapt, to fight, and to unite, was the most powerful weapon in the universe. The galaxy was vast, filled with powers and beings beyond comprehension, but Earth had proven that the human spirit could withstand anything, and perhaps, in the end, that was all that mattered.